He had only $11 left to his name. A single father on the edge of losing everything. But that night, at a lonely gas station, he made a choice that would change his life forever. He gave away something more valuable than money, and by morning, the universe returned it in ways he could never imagine. Michael stood under the harsh glow of the gas station lights, staring down at the crumpled bills in his hand. $11. That was all he had left until payday, and even payday never felt like enough. He rubbed his tired eyes, the weight of sleepless nights pressing down on him. Working 2 jobs had drained every ounce of strength he had, but still, it was never enough to keep the bills from piling up. His 8-year-old son, Tyler, was waiting at home, probably hungry, probably wondering why his father always looked so worn out. Michael hated the thought of disappointing him, but tonight, $11 had to stretch into fuel for the car and maybe something small to eat. He slid the money onto the counter, forcing a tired smile at the cashier, pretending everything was fine. But inside, he felt broken. He remembered the days when life was simple, when his wife was alive and their family felt complete. Now it was just him and Tyler, and every day felt like a test he was failing. Yet, no matter how heavy life became, he couldn't quit. His son needed him, and that was enough reason to push through one more night, one more job, one more struggle. As he filled the tank, he whispered a silent prayer, asking for strength, asking for a miracle. He had no idea that just a few feet away, someone else's life was unraveling too, and that before this night was over, his small world of $11 was about to collide with a story that would change everything forever. As Michael capped the fuel tank and slid into his aging car, a faint sound reached his ears, soft at first, almost like the wind, but heavy with sorrow. He turned his head and noticed a sleek black car parked just 2 spaces away. Inside sat a woman, her shoulders trembling, her face buried in her hands. The sound of her sobbing cut through the stillness of the night. For a moment, Michael hesitated. He had his own problems, his last $11, his hungry son waiting at home, his endless exhaustion. But something inside him whispered that no pain should go unnoticed. Slowly, he stepped closer, tapping gently on the glass. The woman startled, wiping at her face quickly, but her red, swollen eyes gave her away. "Are you all right?" Michael asked softly. She tried to nod, but tears spilled again, and finally she whispered, "I lost my son, my only child. I don't know how to go on." Her voice broke with each word, and Michael felt a deep ache in his chest. He knew grief, different, but heavy all the same. Without thinking of his own burdens, he leaned against the car and listened. She said her name was Grace, and that her son had been her whole world. Now the silence in her home was unbearable. She admitted that tonight she had thought of ending her life, of escaping the pain that felt too heavy to carry. Michael swallowed hard, realizing that his choice in this moment mattered. He couldn't give her money or miracles, but he could give her what he himself longed for most, understanding. And so a broke, exhausted single father stood under the fluorescent lights of a gas station, offering nothing but compassion to a broken-hearted woman. What neither of them knew was that this fragile moment was about to save them both. Michael stood there in silence for a moment, unsure of what to say. He wasn't a counselor, he wasn't wealthy, and he wasn't a man with answers, just a tired father holding on by a thread. But as Grace's sobs filled the cold night air, he remembered his own darkest moments, the nights when he sat alone after his wife passed, staring at the ceiling and wondering how he would raise a child on his own. He remembered the feeling of hopelessness, the emptiness, and the crushing weight of loneliness. Gently he spoke, his voice low but steady. "I don't have much," he admitted. "But I know one thing, no matter how dark life gets, there is always someone who needs us to stay. For me, it's my son. For you, maybe it's the memory of your boy. He wouldn't want you to give up." His words were raw, unpolished, but Grace listened. She looked at this man, his clothes worn, his face etched with fatigue, yet his eyes carried a strength she hadn't seen in herself for months. He wasn't telling her everything would magically get better. He was simply reminding her that pain can be carried, that survival itself was an act of courage. Slowly, Grace lowered her hands from her face, her breathing steadying as the weight on her chest began to ease. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen. Michael hadn't walked away, even when he had every reason to. In that fragile moment, something shifted inside her. The despair that had nearly swallowed her whole began to loosen its grip. Michael's kindness, simple, human, and sincere, had pulled her back from the edge. Neither of them knew it yet, but that small act of compassion was the spark that would change both of their lives forever. The next morning, Michael dragged himself out of bed before sunrise, just as he did every day. His back ached from yesterday's double shift, and his wallet was still painfully light. Tyler stirred in the small bed across the room, rubbing his eyes and smiling sleepily at his father. That smile was the only fuel Michael needed to keep moving. He packed Tyler's worn backpack for school and wondered how long he could keep this fragile balance going. Just as he was about to leave for work, a firm knock echoed at the door. Michael froze. No one ever visited this early. He opened it to find Grace standing there, dressed neatly, her eyes still touched with sadness but brighter than the night before. In her hands were papers and a small set of keys. Michael blinked, confused, as she explained in a trembling voice that his kindness had saved her life. "You gave me a reason to keep going," she said. "Now I want to give you one." She handed him the scholarship letter for Tyler, ensuring his boy would never have to worry about education again. Then she placed the keys in his palm, keys to a house she had purchased for them. Michael's knees nearly buckled as the weight of her words sank in. All his silent prayers, all the nights he begged for a miracle, had found an answer in the most unexpected way. He tried to speak, but emotion choked him. Grace only smiled gently and whispered, "Sometimes the right people cross our path at the right time." For the first time in years, Michael felt a door opening, a door to hope, security, and a future brighter than he ever dared dream. Life for Michael and Tyler changed in ways they never imagined. The small, cold apartment that once echoed with silence was replaced by a warm home filled with light and laughter. Tyler now had a backyard to play in, books for his studies, and the certainty of a future where dreams weren't crushed by poverty. For Michael, the weight on his shoulders slowly began to lift. He still worked hard, but this time it wasn't out of desperation, it was with gratitude. Grace became more than just a benefactor, she became family. Tyler would often sit beside her, listening to stories about the boy she had lost, and in those moments, her broken heart found comfort in his innocent laughter. What began as an act of compassion at a gas station became a bond that healed two shattered lives. Michael often thought back to that night, the moment he chose kindness over convenience, empathy over indifference. He realized that sometimes, the smallest gesture can create ripples larger than we ever expect. Grace had found a reason to live, and in saving her, Michael had unknowingly saved himself and his son too. Their story became a quiet reminder that true wealth isn't measured in money, but in the moments we choose to stand for one another. And though Michael once feared he had nothing to give, his $11 night had proved that the most powerful gift a person can offer is a piece of their heart. That single choice had rewritten their destinies forever.
If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Subscribe to my channel for more powerful and inspiring stories.